Welcome to this Come to Jesus Daily Devotional as we continue in our stewardship series. We've been thinking about this image of the tape measure during this series. Now, a tape measure is a tool. It's only a tool, really, isn't it? But as you know, oftentimes it's used like a toy, isn't it? You mess around with it. And during this series on stewardship, we're talking about using the gifts, resources, opportunities God gives us, not like toys, but rather like tools. And today's devotional is entitled, How Can a Steward Remain Faithful? Let's read 1 Corinthians 4, 1-2. This then is how you ought to regard us, as servants of Christ or stewards, as those entrusted with the mysteries God has revealed. Now, it required that stewards, those who have been given a trust, must prove faithful. I'm sure we've all had the grievous experience of speaking to someone who once was running the race for Jesus, was full of faith, but they've fallen away. Today we reflect on how we can remain faithful stewards. Firstly, regard us as stewards of Christ. Paul tells the Corinthian church to regard him as a servant or a steward of Christ. Steward translates the Greek word oikonomos, meaning a manager, a trustee, or one entrusted with a responsibility. Each of us has been entrusted with gifts, opportunities, responsibilities that are to be used in service for God. At this point in the letter, Paul seems to be defending himself. He's defending himself against those who were judging and accusing him. In the context, he writes, 1 Corinthians 4:3, I care very little if I am judged by you or by any human court. Indeed, I do not even judge myself. In essence, Paul is urging them to recognize that all he is doing, he's doing in good conscience. It is in service for Christ as his steward. And today let's ask ourselves, are we truly servants of Christ? Are we stewarding the gifts and opportunities that he has given us with a clear conscience and a desire to honour him truly? Secondly, it's required that a steward be faithful. Paul explains how a servant and a steward is to live. He says this about how a steward is to live. Now, it is required that those who have been given a trust must prove faithful. To be faithful, or pistos is the word, means to be trustworthy, reliable, dependable, loyal. Jesus requires faithfulness from us. The phrase "it is required" comes from the Greek zetio, meaning seek, desire, strive after, pursue diligently. A faithful servant is attentive to Jesus, quick to seek his will, eager to respond in obedience. I'm sure we've all been in a shop, maybe, where we need assistance and can't find anyone willing to help. You look around the store and you see staff chatting, maybe distracted on their phones, and frustration begins to rise. In contrast, Jesus calls us to be attentive, responsive servants, faithful stewards who are ready to act when he calls. In response, how can we remain faithful stewards? How can we remain faithful with the gifts and opportunities God has given us? Well, firstly, keep renewing your love and loyalty to Christ. Our reading speaks of living a living relationship with Jesus. We can be sure of this. If we foolishly think we can remain faithful without continually drinking from the living water of Christ, will soon become spiritually dry, weary, discouraged, cynical. Faithfulness is not sustained by good intentions and self-control, but by daily abiding in Christ, loving him, seeking him, listening to him, asking for help, drawing strength from his presence. A faithful steward keeps his heart on fire for Christ by being close to Christ. Secondly, keep admiring, treasuring, and sharing the mysteries, as Paul talks about, the gospel of Christ. Paul was under pressure and attack, yet he was sustained by the glory and wonder of the mysteries of Christ and the gospel. A heart captivated by the grace of God gains strength to endure hardship and remain faithful. Often, when someone falls into unfaithfulness, it begins long before their outward actions. They have first drifted from admiring Christ and from being thankful for the gospel. Let us keep marveling at his grace, rejoicing in his salvation, and gladly sharing the good news with others. A faithful steward knows the lavish grace of God. God bless you.